It's 4 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm just going to introduce myself quickly. I'm Lindy Eibeling. I am the Communications Manager for the STEM Council, and I have Carrie Britton and Carrie Ranking joining me here as well. And we have a number of our regional STEM managers on the line, and they will be jumping in to help answer questions, and 2 of them will be sharing the bulk of the presentation today. So I just want to say thank you for joining us. I think this is a really great opportunity to learn more about the application process and get some questions answered if you have them. We're going to cover how to apply the rubric, and then the deadline and approval process. And after each section, you'll be able to ask questions. It'll be opened up, so you can either unclick your mute button, or you can also send a question via the chat. And I'm going to go ahead and ask for anybody that is joining via their computer today, if you could just send a private chat to the STEM Council, the Iowa STEM Council, and let us know your name and your email address. That would be great. This will be sending out more information to everyone that joined, along with the link to today's webinar. So you'll be able to archive it and reference the discussion and the questions and answers after today's call. I have muted everybody. So again, if you want to ask a question, you'll need to unmute yourself. And then with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our 2 presenters today. We have Deb Frazee from the Southwest region and Christine Bullock from the Southeast region.
Thanks, Lindy. So what we're going to get started with is a little bit of a background, eligibility, and funding, and then go into the application process this year, which is different than it has been in the past. So, Lindy, can you confirm that you can see my screen with the presentation?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So the STEM Best program, as many of you may know, was launched in 2014 with the idea that we wanted to help foster more partnerships between schools and business and more authentic learning for students that showed them what really happens in the real world. And so the goal there would be to unite the expertise of the public and private sector partners to help strengthen our continuum from school to careers, which fits really nicely today with where the state has gone with the Future Ready Iowa program. The STEM Best program is based on 3 attributes, which is education that's driven by local, industry, and community need, a rigorous, relevant, and dynamic STEM curriculum that changes as needs change for the students and the partners, and authentic partnerships that go beyond just saying we think this is a great program and really dive deep into an ongoing relationship between schools and community partners. For this grant, the eligible groups to apply are any public or private K-12 schools in Iowa. As part of this application, businesses, economic development groups, higher education, nonprofits can apply in partnerships with these districts, but either a public school or a private school needs to be the actual applicant and therefore the financial agent of the grant. You cannot apply for this grant if you are for example, a library or you're the Chamber of Commerce. And preference will be given to districts who choose to partner or cluster to share their resources, whether that be multiple buildings within a district are partnering together, or multiple school districts, public and private schools, are partnering on one program. The funding for this grant is up to $25,000, and eligible expenses for those funds would be curriculum development, site visits to visit exemplary STEM Best models across the state, to attend an Iowa STEM Best convening or a similar conference on work-based learning, to develop a needs assessment for your community, facility development, technology, liability, and insurance consultations, professional development for STEM educators and their partners, the hiring of a coordinator or business development manager to support the work, or other justified costs that you would outline in your application. As part of this application, there is at least a 1-to-1 cost share. For example, if you're applying for the full $25,000 grant, you will be required to have a cost share of either liquid cost share or in-kind cost share of $25,000. If you apply for $15,000, you would be required to have at least $15,000 in cost share. One more thing with the cost share expenses is those must occur during the award period, and we'll go through a little bit of that later. But your cost share must be from the date that your program is awarded until June 30th of 2019. You cannot include any cost share expenses that occur before the awards are announced or after the funds must be expended on June 30th. Any questions about eligibility and funding?
I had a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was curious if you could go over some of the responsibilities of the entity that holds the funds.
So the lead applicant, that is the financial agent of the application, would be responsible for doing the invoicing to the Iowa STEM Council, would be responsible for doing the reporting to the STEM Council that will go through a 2-year reporting period. The STEM Council will provide you with a template of what the report will be. The report will match what the rubric is this year that you're evaluated on. So all of those questions that you're asked in the application, you'll have to give updates on those in the report. And the lead applicant will be our contact to reach out to get those reports. If you have a partnership between, for example, 3 school districts, and 3 school districts are listed, you would collaborate on that report and that template, but Carrie Britton from the Iowa STEM Council would be directly contacting the lead applicant for that information, for the invoices. If you do any type of sharing of expenses across those different organizations, across the different school districts, the lead applicant would be the one that would be responsible for submitting that invoice to the STEM Council and managing those funds. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that's what I assumed. I just wanted to make sure that there weren't additional responsibilities.
No, we really want to make sure the person is a lead applicant is someone who is really going to be the leader of the project that would be able to give us the most information as far as updates that you're doing. You would be responsible for meeting the invoicing deadlines, especially around June 30th of 2019. So somebody that is easily available to do that. We don't want the lead applicant to be somebody who's not the most involved in the project. Any other questions?
Yes, Christine, we had a question come through in the chat.
Okay.
The question is there a mechanism for corporations to be paired with or evaluate potential partnerships with educational applicants?
Read that question again, please.
Is there a mechanism for corporations to be paired with or evaluate potential partnerships with educational applicants?
So I'm assuming that you're looking to potentially get involved with schools interested in doing this program. Is that correct, Seth? Okay. If you have an interest in reaching out, I would suggest that right now, if you want to do a description of where you're located, Seth, maybe your contact information, then that might be people that are listed here in the chat could contact you directly to do those partnerships. Or if you want to reach out to the regional STEM managers and say that you're in a certain community and you're looking to see if you could be paired with an educational organization, that would probably be the best way to do it. Deb, any other insights on that?
I would have one other insight to offer. There has been a lot of interest in the BEST program, but I want to emphasize that we're really looking at this model to be a program that's more than just a single unit, a one and done, in and out. It's really something with its rigor and relevance that we're looking for it to be ongoing, either multiple times during a year, depending on what the model of the school is, quarter, semester, J-term, etc. It's not just a one time we do a project and then we're out. And it can be at all grade levels. It's not just at a secondary. It is eligible for middle and the elementaries as well.
And Christine, could I interject for just a second? This is Carrie Rankin, and I just wanted to add to the previous person's question. If you go to our website, iowastem.gov/STEMBest, there are examples of the 37 models in existence now. So to reference your question about how to handle that organization of the billing and such, for instance, Iowa Big North is a school cluster of districts that came together to do exactly what you discussed. And there's always the opportunity, they've all told us that feel free to reach out to them and ask them questions on how they establish that, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
So we have one more question then that came through in our chat. It's how many grants are given in a year?
This year, we will have a minimum of 15 grants from public dollars. In years past, we've had private dollars that have added additional grants, but there are 15 available.
Christine, this is Ryan Cunningham, and I'm here with Brad Peter from Okoboji. We're writing our grant actually toward the launch of another Iowa Big consortium with a number of districts in our area. We've got a lot of commitments from local businesses to commit to an Iowa Big, but we're going to start in small as far as a middle school launch and then a high school the next year. We're just not sure which organizations we're going to need right away and which are more long term. And our funding that we're needing is to get our immersion training and just the different components to get us started. And so we've got $25,000+ in in-kind donations. We're just not sure which are going to happen this year and which would happen, the next. We had been advised at one time that that wasn't super important, and now we're kind of hearing that that is very important, that those in-kind donations have to be in just this next year, even though that's where our startup money is really needed, and then they're willing to commit once we get rolling. So if you could help with any advisement on that, that would be helpful.
So for your in-kind contributions, like you said, they have to be during the award period. So I would try and figure out if you're going to be doing an immersion experience at Iowa Big, for example, maybe have them quantify if there's any in-kind of their staff or personnel that you're going to incur. Okay. If your school district's covering any of the substitute costs that would be done during that time, or stipends to teachers, for example, travel expenses, hotel, lodging, and if any of those will be covered by the district or community partner or Iowa Big, you could quantify those there. If you're looking at doing kind of time after your experience where the teachers get back together, quantify that for how much that would cost for those experiences, whether it be in kind or your district would be paying stipends to teachers.
Okay, so you're suggesting the in-kind coming from our own organizations?
It could come from multiple entities as long as they're a partner within your project. So yes, it could within the district if you're having, a principal taking, additional time outside of their normal duties to do this work, or, if Iowa Big is helping to advise you more via emails and phone calls and video chats, that you could quantify that as well.
Okay. As far as we've got maybe a dozen organizations that have committed to providing business partners or their time, basically, once we get this going, we're going to have maybe 4 to 5 max that'll happen this year, but we're not sure which ones, because in the way this works, the organizations pitch the idea and then the kids pick it. So my question is, we have all these that are a potential available, we're just not sure which ones will happen. How do we square that up?
So if you know that you're going to have probably 4 this year in your budget proposal in the application, you don't have to say in the budget exactly who those specific 4 are, but if you know there's going to be 4 because you're going to have, say, 4 teams of students, then you can quantify that there. You don't have to say the specific business partner is going to do this project. You could just confirm we are going to have 4 projects running from 4 business partners. This is how much their time and kind would cost. And then when you list your partners, I would suggest identifying all of them, because they're going to be partners in this project, and your partnership commitment letters don't have to necessarily be that they know that they're going to commit to you in January, but this project is going to be sustained long term. So we want partners that are committed to you now and are going to be with you.
That's what we kind of have, right now. So, okay. And then at the end on the follow-up, how to verify those in-kind donations, is there a connection at the end of what's saying here's exactly what was given as a reporting out?
You will get a report of your budget, but your invoicing will be done of actual expenses, and then you will outline in the reporting templates what your partnerships were, and if they were in-kind donations to your program, you would just say, for example, the Chamber of Commerce was one of our community partners for this project. This is how much time they committed, and it quantifies to this value.
Okay.
This is Mark Bennett. I'm from Gretchen Terrell Roof and Ayrshire. We're in the consortium with Okoboji.
Mm-hmm.
I would presume that during this coming school year, even though we're not set to launch till the following, that in the spring, we're going to have to sit down with these business partnerships and begin to develop these projects. So their time spent with us doing that would be valuable, right?
Yes.
Because I think the way they've written their letter so far, they've written it like we're going to be, we'll, give you X hours to work with kids, but we can just ask them to kind of rephrase that, right? For this next year, it's going to be to work with us to develop these projects so they're ready to roll in the fall of 2019.
Yes, so their time of sitting down with you and talking more to the teachers, that can be quantified to as their in-kind time.
Perfect, thank you.
And that's really the most important part, because these quantified pieces are all claimed during the remainder of this year between October and then June of 2019. So the claiming is all done and taken care of before your school term would commence in the fall of 2019 then, with your real full project.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. And as I mentioned previously, the STEM Best application this year is not a PDF as we have done in the past. So if you've started writing out a PDF, this will all be in the application portal that we have developed for scale-ups if you applied for those back in the winter. So if you go to the Iowa STEM website and click to apply for the STEM Best program, you'll be taken to the application portal. If you have never applied for anything, or if you've not applied for a scale-up with us in the past, you will need to create an account, which is down here at the bottom. I'm going to show you what it would look like after I've already created an account as an applicant. And what you will see here, I have a few different levels of applying. If my application, this will allow you to come in and work on it periodically. You don't have to complete this all in one sitting. Starting an application, you would press this gray button to start an application and select STEM Best. There's two options, either STEM Best or Scale Up. You want to make sure to do the STEM Best.
Christine, I don't think we're looking at the right screen. We're still on your how to apply.
We see your PowerPoint, Christine, not the website.
All right, let me do a new one. Do you see it now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so once you go in to the iowastem.gov, and then under that orange bar, there's the Apply for STEM Best. This will take you to our application portal. If you have not applied to Scale Ups, you create an account. Once you create an account, sign in, there'll be this gray box here to start a new application. That's where you select that you want to apply for STEM Best. Do not select STEM Scale Up from this past season. You can come back to this, as I said, and finish it all the way up until September 12th and edit it. This application will ask you for the lead school type. You can only do a public or a private school. So like I said, if you're from economic development, it's not even going to let you apply. Once you fill in a city, it'll start to give you options here that you can fill in for the school district. Please, if possible, select what is in the drop-down so that we make sure that the data is written correctly, even if you're a private school. If you select private school here, it's going to give you the private schools that are in the area. Then fill in the required portions as you would assume. Your STEM region will be automatically assigned. Please don't change that unless you know that it's wrong and there is a regional map there. Then you will have to fill in the required information. If you know a communication manager, please include that. So once, if the awardees, we can start promoting your program and send that information to the communication manager. And then here is a really important part. For each organization, you will have to submit the superintendent's name if it's a public school, president if it's private, and then the building principal. If you're doing a consortium, whether within your district or multiple districts, That's where you would go to either add a school within this top first school district, or if you have one school district, one school within that district, and you need to add a new district, that's where you would add the second district and type in again, if it's a public or private school, the building name, or the principal, and their email. It's really important that you get their emails right, because your application will not be able to be complete until these people approve your application via email. So if that email is wrong, then those people will never get that email. Then you have the executive summary of your program. So we could send it to our reviewers in 500 words or less. They could get an idea of what you're doing. The essay questions, and then the community partners. So in the past, you have been required to get a PDF letter of commitment or letter of support from your partners. But we've also had in the past that some people have copy and pasted just a general template to all their partners, so all their letters were the same, and we couldn't distinguish what those partners were really doing with your project. Was it job shadows, internships, industry tours, curriculum development, facilities, technology? So you will describe their involvement here, and then once you submit your application, this community partner will get an email where they have to then submit their role in your project. So that will be done all via email. They won't send in a letter on their letterhead. And you can keep adding partners with this blue button, as many partners as you would like. Now just know that all of those partners are going to get this email. So if you have a partner that's just kind of wishy-washy, if they're on the line, they might slow down your application later in the approval process if they're not really fully committed, and then might not be committed to doing their email. When you submit your application and it sends them an email, it will be from info@iowastem.gov. Make sure that they checked their spam folder, because, you know, especially through school districts, it will likely get pushed there for those superintendent and principal approvals, but also your community partners might go there as well. And then down here is where you have to do your budget with your grant funds. This is what you're requesting from the STEM Council. Your cost share, you don't have to have cost share. You don't have to have funds in every single one of these lines. But what you do have to have is that the grant total of $25,000 cannot be less than what your, or cannot be more than your cost share. So the system will not let you submit it if you have a $25,000 grant request, but only $10,000 in cost share. And then you will be required for each line that you enter an amount, you will be required to justify that with a description of what that budget line is. So that's where if you want to explain, for example, if somebody is doing curriculum development, you might explain there that we're going to have 30 hours of curriculum development for our teachers. There are 10 teachers participating with us. And that's how we got to that total. Then you'll have more essay questions that Deb will talk about later with the rubric. The next piece on here is the status of your application. So how will I know when my application has reached the point of being complete and ready to be reviewed? So as I just showed you, that application was incomplete. I have never submitted it. I've just pressed saved. So that means from the applicant side, the applicant has not completed all of the questions and pressed submit. If your status says in process, the applicant has completed the application, but now it requires the approvals of superintendents, principals, and community partners. If it lists complete, all parties have approved the application and no further action is needed. So your application is not done and will not be reviewed until it says complete. Important deadline, September 12th is when the lead applicant must submit the application. Superintendents and principals have until September 14th to submit their approvals via email. So if you don't get all of your work done until the 11th or 12th, Please don't wait that long, but if you do, those people will have 2 more days, and community partners have 1 week, September 19th, to approve their piece. Now, in order for you to check who has approved and who has not, Lindy, please let me know if you can't see the application website.
We can see it just fine.
Okay, the second application here says in process. So that means that I, as the applicant, submitted it on August 27th. If I go to view, then I can see where all of the approvals are in the queue. So only 1 person right now has approved my application on the 27th. All of these other people have not. If they have not approved it, it will not be complete. So I can go to send reminder, click that, and it will send the email that you had in your application a reminder. When they get this email, it will also have a copy of the application that you submitted so that they can review what they are approving. If you want to download your application for your records or to share with somebody outside of those listed in the application, you can also download that here. Questions about the application portal?
We have a question. My name is Caleb Faring. I'm from Walk-On High School, and we are partnering with NICC Community College to do a regional welding center for Elmwood County. The center will be at Walk-On High School and be offered to our students at Walk-On in the school day. And then there also will be night courses for the surrounding area for students and adults. And that's a certificate program, not high school credit. Can we include our neighboring schools that will be sending us students at nighttime?
If they want to be listed as a partner in your application, yes. But if you describe them in your application as a partner, you'll want to make sure that they're listed, their contact information to approve their role.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other questions about the portal? If you have problems with the application portal, I would suggest reaching out to info@iowastem.gov if you have issues, and they will get you connected to the correct person.
Christine?
Yes.
Hi, it's Frank here. When I was doing this, and maybe I didn't look closely enough, but I was throwing in the numbers into the expenses, and I'm just wondering, was there a location for how you came up with this number?
That's where you could do the description. You don't need to, you want it to look something that's easy to read, but that's where you could say, for example, we're doing professional development for teachers. There's going to be 10 teachers, 30 hours of time, which totals $3,000 or $30,000 or whatever the total would be that you're doing for in-kind. If you have room, you could get into more details of each teacher will be given a $1,500 stipend times 10 teachers. That's how we got to this total. But you do have a 200 character limit.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Deb.
So in the past, the BEST grant was a little bit scattered with its sections, and it was sometimes difficult for reviewers to process all the information that came in what I would just strictly call a large narrative chunk. So this year, in our attempt to help the reviewers be able to look at a number of applications that are broad age groups, broad topics, broad types of partners, all those types of things, we've really tried to categorize the evaluation criteria into some more specific categories. And probably our best bit of advice to you all is to write to the rubric sections as they're defined here, because this is really the information that the reviewers will be looking at. And they will be trained. They will go through reliability work so that everybody is kind of on the same page. And we hope that it will be very helpful to all of you, regardless of the area of expertise that you'll be covering in your application. So you can see number 1 section is student impact. This is really all about the students, and the STEM mission since its inception has been to look at how we're growing that future workforce. And the Future Ready Iowa initiative is really reaffirming our earlier goal. So you can do what you need with your populations and such there. Section 2 really talks about your curriculum. As Christine mentioned earlier, that rigorous STEM curriculum is really, really important. And you'll see that there is a parentheses there with some links that are located, which will help you review information from some of the really early projects, clear up through projects that were awarded last fall. And so we've numbered the sections, and so however you and or your assistants in writing the grant want to number this, just know that we really would like to have the information put together in the sections as you see them here in the rubric. Christina, if you want to go to the next one. Community partnerships is really, really important. That's really what the feature of the STEM Best is all about, is how we utilize all those resources in our communities, villages, whatever. And so again, there are links that will give you examples about other programs and how those partnerships have been successfully captured. And what we're really looking for in all of these sections is evidence. So make sure that you're not being so general that a reviewer might say, looks like they might do that, but not sure they're going to. So we really want you to be as direct as you can, as targeted as you can. So probably honing, funneling, whatever, really get it down to the nuts and bolts. And so as you use the information in this rubric, then it also goes back to reference those commitment letters that Christine talked about earlier that will be attached, and your executive summary at the very beginning. So that's why we're giving a couple of chances to help our reviewers get through these, especially if we have a really high number of submissions. And so we don't want it to be difficult. We just want it to be very focused and very directed in what you're hoping to do. And yeah, I know that sounds confusing. This is planning, but we want you to take those broader areas and say, this is what's most important to us. This is what we will hope will have the best outcomes for our students. This is what will make a difference in the long term. How will we be evaluated as we go to section 4? We're looking at the professional development pieces. Early on, there wasn't a lot of STEM professional development. Over the years, we've kind of found that there are groups here and there. There are larger scale programs in Iowa and contiguous states where we know people have gone out and sought some expertise. So whatever you find that works for you all, capture that and give us some information. If you're creating a professional development, that would be kind of tough, I imagine. You may have to give us a little information about where you got your theory, the best practices, the pedagogy, whatever that you'd be working with. And that could come from the business side of the house too. So of course, if we're looking at something like a welding program or something like that, you'll have some very specific information. It's not like you're creating something totally brand new. The financial model, 25,000 max. This is a big issue. We want to make sure that you're doing well. If you come in with $100,000 of match, put the $100,000 of match in there. We want to see the evidences of support from any and all partners that you may have for your program. So we want you to encourage to really look out there and see who and what are going to be your largest supporters, partners, and will really put your program on the map as being very, very successful. So when we did the redesign, we didn't do it to make it difficult. We wanted to make it as straightforward as possible. So we hope this will be helpful to you. And again, if you have questions, reach out to info@iowastem.gov so that we can help you take care of those questions as quickly as possible. September 12th is going to be here really fast with everything that's going on in school year startup. So, use your time as efficiently as you can. Okay, let's see. Sustainability and the modeling and the disseminating, those are some of the trademarks that really make our STEM Best models unique around the United States. Iowa has really taken this program and tried to develop it. That's why it's been expanded into the middle school and elementary years. So, at each level and with each group that gets together to put something together for BEST, you'll have your own parts that make it successful. And basically, we want it to be around more than 1 or 2 years, which is what your progress reporting will be. If we can see it grow, we would like to see it grow. So think about the elements of sustainability in your application. What's going to make it a hallmark for your community or your consortium? In the same way with the modeling and the disseminating, how can you then share the information? Is your program going to have a high replication possibility? Is it something that's specific only to your location based on the groups that are present in your county or your region? So again, we've just tried to give you some very specific guidelines. Write the application to those questions or those points, those bulleted points. And lastly, evaluation. We have not been quite as supportive of evaluation in past years. I think for this coming class of awardees that will be selected, all of us between the 6 regional manage and the information center, the operations center, you and I really want to be there to help. So know that you'll be awarded the 15 or so programs that are selected will be awarded in October. We would hope to reach out maybe January, February, say how things are going. Reach out again in May and say, ooh, invoice date is 30 days away. We need everything taken care of. So we'll support you during the first year in that methodology. So making sure that you're collecting your data, especially since in this first round, it's implementation and baseline. And hopefully by the time we get to June 30th of 2020, when the second year will be done, we will have visited all of the topics that you were included. Hopefully you'll have lots and lots of success, but we also know that realistically there will be things that change. Players change, educators change, buildings change, all kinds of things change. So we want to be supportive in allowing you to cover those details in your own evaluation that's done in year 1 and year 2. Okay, questions about those topics?
We had a question come through in the chat. It was, where and how are the partner commitment letters submitted?
They are submitted when you submit your application. The partner email address that you listed will get an email. And then to that email, they click a link that will take them to the application portal, and then they submit it in a comment box. So they won't email us any PDFs or attachments or anything like that. That will be listed there in that comment box. This rubric also that Deb just went through is listed on the iowastem.gov, the STEM Best page, where you click to the application portal. Down at the bottom, there's a number of hyperlinks, and that's where you can see this rubric that the link was listed, the long link was listed at the beginning of the discussion. You're muted, Lindy, if you're reading it.
We had another question in the comments. Will there be an outline for what is expected for those partner letters?
The partner letters will be, if you look at the rubric, that's where I would go to your community partners, what we're looking for there. So like Deb said, strong evidence of partners. Those things should be a commitment narrative that's detailed and consistent with what you say. So in the application, you're going to have to list and discuss what that community partner will be doing. And we're going to be connecting that what you say they're doing and what they say they're doing are the same. So having examples of, are you doing job shadows, internships, classroom speakers, project development, in-kind donations of their time for advising? Are they paying for your business development person? Are they providing facilities? Are they housing the students? For example, if students can come look at their workplace, that's another thing that you could quantify for your cost share, but you would also want to outline that in the community partnership.
And probably another detail that would be significant is also verifying if you've got partners that are going to be working with multiple age groups. So I heard an earlier conversation with middle school and high school. So, you know, which age groups are we looking at, and how many students from any age groups are you anticipating being engaged in the BEST model this year?
And then one more question. In the executive summary, you ask for strategies. Can you tell us more about what you need?
Ask for strategies in the executive summary. Hold on, let me pull up the application so I can read the exact. So broad goals or strategies. So that could be, I would center it more around what are the main goals of your program or what the strategy might be. For example, what strategies are you going to use at the elementary level to get students more developed in school business partnerships? Are you going to be doing it in class, or is it done in an academy setting where they go to a cluster? That would almost be more like the process of how you're going to do it. Is it a separate class? Is it integrated into other curriculum? Are they going off site to academy? So that would be like your implementation plan for how you're going to do it with students.
Think of it this way also. If you were going out to your business partners to ask them to accompany you down this journey or partner with you, how would you pitch it to them? And if you can summarize that in our word count, then that's kind of what we're looking for in terms of your summary.
Another question was, is there a page limit?
There are character or word limits for some of the questions. For example, the executive summary is 500 words, budget descriptions are 200 words, and each of the essays are 500. For each of the essay, the answer area, there's a counter at the bottom right corner that will tell you where you're at with that 500 word limit. We also wanted to prevent this year from people putting in a lot of extra attachments that the reviewers didn't always get to review, so having people kind of on the same level playing field. And the last thing that I would say that hasn't been asked right now is if your model has to be a new plan, if it can be an existing program that can be expanded, or kind of where you have to be in the process. So this could be total seed money to get started from the very beginning. It could also be somebody that is a returning awardee. So if you are a returning awardee in the application, there is a question if you have received previous STEM Best funds. If you have, you will be required to answer a separate question that the question is, explain how this application will expand upon your past award. If applicable, what traits of the current STEM Best model benefit the new partners? So if you are applying for funds as an applicant, that you were the applicant that received it before, we want to see evidence that you're expanding the program, you're bringing in new partners, you're doing something different, not just using the $25,000 to sustain what you were already doing.
One other additional comment along those lines. Previously, we did have more what we call the support letters. So if you're going to do what we would call appendages, we would look for a definite higher level of information, because now we've gone to the commitment level. So we don't think we might, we were pretty certain that we will, is probably what you're going to look at, because you do have quite a bit of history on a previous award, or multiple years in some cases.
And then one more question, as we begin to implement our program, how free are we to shift expenses with the categories listed in the application? And do you want to address that?
I think this would be a good question for Carrie Britton with the contract side.
Yes, thank you. So the contract will have a provision in it that stipulates that anything more than 10% in the overall budget, if over 10% is adjusted, we ask that you reach out to us and we have a dialogue around what changes are that you're anticipating. We want to be sure that you're staying within your scope of work. So of course, if anything significant changes with your scope of work, we would want to be a partner with you in that conversation as well. we've had awardees who just feel more comfortable reaching out to us if there are just any shifts at all, whether it reaches that 10% threshold or not. And we really appreciate, again, being a partner with you as you progress and as changes arise, so that we can just be aware of what changes, or whether it's barriers or what have you. We just really appreciate being informed of how things are going and what you're encountering.
What are some examples of collecting student data?
So the basic examples would be some of the things that we outline as questions about students in the application. For example, how many students are participating? What are their ages? If you have information about the number of free and reduced lunch students that actually participate, percentage of female, percentage non-white. So those questions that are already in the application, we want to know what actually happened. What were the actual student profiles that you had? Then the data kind of shifts a little bit from there. For example, the gentleman who talked about the welding program, you might be collecting data on the number of students that receive those certifications, the number of community college credit hours that they get, the number of partnerships that each student has, for example. You might get others who are doing programs where they're tracking students and their growth in soft skills throughout the program. So they're doing evaluations of each other on their presentation skills, maybe at the beginning of the semester, the middle of the semester, and the end. You're collecting surveys, hopefully, from your community partners about their involvement, tracking data of, you know, the list of the companies or community partners, maybe their size, the number of people involved, what was their partnership role. So you want to be collecting a lot of the things that you say you're going to do in your application. You want to make sure that you're actually monitoring what actually happens. Now, if you say that you're going to have 10 partners and you end up only having 7, or you end up having 20, you're not going to get docked for that come June, because we wanted to see evidence that you are actually collecting that and thinking strategically about how you could use that information.
Other things that would be helpful for documentation can be even things as simple as, if you have a partner meeting or you call a community meeting, include a copy of your agenda, maybe put in a few minutes, you know, things like that, so we can really verify that what you said was going to happen really did. And I think it's also important that you think about that in terms of baseline, and then your progress between October of 18, May, June of 19, and May, June of 20.
What would be the protocol if we were to underspend and have leftover dollars at the end of the year?
I, again, appreciate that question being raised, because it is really important that as you go and you see that you may be at a point where you're not going to expend all your dollars, we'd rather have a conversation with you sooner than later. We are constrained by fiscal year. We are unable to no cost extension because we are using state dollars that don't cross fiscal years. And if we have a conversation sooner than later, we might be able to offer you some suggestions as to some possibilities or adjustments that maybe you hadn't thought of, that through our experience with other awardees, we've gained some helpful pointers and tips that we can be a real resource for you as you go through the program.
But it is cost reimbursable, someone mentioned, so we can only reimburse for those expenses that we receive from you.
And we do require that the costs are incurred by you and it's reimbursement. So we do require receipts for those expenditures as well as proof of payment. So there are document trail that will require that you collect and turn over to us.
Any other questions before we move on? Christine or Deb, were there any more pieces that you wanted to mention?
I think we're good. We just hope to see a lot of applications coming in. We're starting to get on the home stretch here. So just reach out if you have questions. Please don't hesitate to do that, because we want to be here and be as helpful and supportive as we can. And just remember that it's all age groups from elementary through high school.
Wendy, could I suggest maybe for those of you that don't know who your regional manager are, for those that are on the call, just quickly, we've met Christine and Deb, but can we have the other regional managers quickly introduce themselves and say which region they represent? Jeff, would you like to start?
Jeff Beneke, Northeast Region.
Sarah?
I'm Sarah Derry. I'm the South Central Regional Manager. My office is at Drake University.
Mary, would you like to go next?
Sure, I'm Mary Trent, Northwest STEM Regional Manager. I'm with Iowa Lakes Community College in Estherville.
Sure, is Kelly on the line with us today?
I think so.
Kelly, are you on the line? Kelly couldn't join us today, but she's our North Central Regional Manager based at Iowa State University in Ames. So utilize that resource.
And I just wanted to say thank you again for joining. I hope this was useful. We appreciate the questions. There were a lot of good ones today. Like I said at the beginning, we will be making this recording available. So if you have not already shared your name and email address in the comments, please do so. And if you're joining via phone, if you want to email info@iowastem.gov, if you would like a copy, we will make sure to get it to you. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing your applications.
Bye.